this one's a really strange but profound story, and that's 1 Kings 13. Jeroboam is now king of the 10 northern tribes, and he is getting really self-conscious. He's getting afraid that the tribes are going to want to return to Judah, and specifically, it's the fact that everyone comes and worships and sacrifices at the temple that's making him self-conscious, because this is a temple built by Solomon and a city built by David, and he's concerned that they're going to see this and remember the house of David and want to return to it. So he creates 2 golden calves, puts one in Dan and one in Bethel, and is like, rather than everyone having to travel so far to the temple, why don't you just make your sacrifices here? These golden calves can represent the gods that brought you out of Egypt. And he even had this big old festival to start sacrifices to these calves. At this festival, there was a man of God in the crowd who cried out and prophesied about the destruction of these altars, that they would be ruined and the ashes poured out. He also said, and by the way, there's going to be a man named Josiah who's going to come from the house of David, who's going to sacrifice your false priests that you set up on the very altars that they worship at. Jeroboam got angry, stretched out his hand in Queen of Hearts fashion, and said, arrest him. But his hand withered and said to the man of God, please plead to your God that he would restore my hand. And the man asked God to restore his hand, and he did. And Jeroboam was so grateful, he said, why don't you come home to my house and I'll give you something to eat and drink there. And the man said, whoa, God told me specifically on this trip not to eat or drink anything and to go home a different way than I came. So you could offer me half of your kingdom and it wouldn't be worth it. And he left. On this man's way home, there was an old prophet in Israel who heard about him and what happened at the festival. And he invited this man to come to his house to eat and drink. And the man said the same thing. You know what? God told me that I was not to eat or drink on this trip. And the old prophet lied to him and said, well, God revealed to me that you could come to my house and have something to eat or drink. So the man of God from the festival is like, well, okay. And he goes to the guy's house, and the old prophet has an actual prophecy from God while he's there. And he says, oh, so yeah, because you did something that God told you not to do, you're not going to make it home alive. And sure enough, this man of God, on his way home, he no sooner did he get onto the road before he was attacked and killed by a lion. The old prophet felt really, really bad about this, and he actually buried him in the tomb he had set aside for himself and grieved over him and said, I want to be laid to rest next to this man when I die. And to me, all of this is about acting out of fear, doubt, and anxiety rather than out of faith. Because when we act out of fear instead of out of faith, we set up our own altars of destruction. When we act out of doubt, doubting what God has told us to do rather than having faith, we open ourselves up to the attack of the enemy who prowls around like a lion seeking who he may devour. And when we operate out of manipulation and deceit and anxiety that things won't go our way rather than faith, we bring grief upon ourselves that was unnecessary.